If you think this Sifuna wave is a joke, then you need to know that there have been at least 2 very urgent emergency meetings at State House to discuss this Sifuna problem. And all this is unfolding when the next Sifuna mega rally is scheduled for the 21st of February, this Saturday, I believe, in Kakamega, or Kakamega, if you like. Now, if you're a serious analyst of Kenyan politics, you'll also be very curious about the choice of Sifuna's 3rd meeting. You will remember that the very first mega rally was in Busia. The second was in Kitengela, which has shaken Kenya. And now the 3rd one is going to be in Kakamega. Now, why Kakamega? By the way, Sifuna does not hail from Kakamega. Sifuna is a Bukusu, Kitale, those sides. Mainly Trans Nzoia. Kakamega is a different county. In fact, the Maragoli, who are the majority in Kakamega, have historically had problems with the Bukusu within the Luhya nation. But there are those analysts who believe that finally there is a candidate who can unite the entire Luhya community. I think that is the main reason for the choice of Kakamega. And trust me, this is President William Samoei Ruto's worst nightmare. Why? Well, let me start by giving you information that has come out recently about the real census figures from the last census. You know, census figures, and we've said this on this channel, are very political, especially tribal numbers. And they're always rigged, interfered with, altered when they're released to the public. Now on your screens right now, you can see the real figures on the column on your left. And then the figures that Kenyans were given, stories Ajaba, on your right. And you can clearly see the community in Kenya right now that has the largest numbers. Which community is it? It is the Mulembe Nation, the Luhyas. Now you understand why this is Ruto's worst nightmare. You see, Ruto's policies have caused havoc in the nation called Kenya. But they've had a silver lining of uniting all Kenyans against this regime. And that would include uniting all Luhyas against this regime. Indeed, things were made worse by the Cyrus Njirongo Manenos. That Cyrus Njirongo business shut out completely the UDA party from the Mulembe Nation. And please don't talk to me about Malava constituency, because we all know what happened there. There was a massive rigging. Votes were stolen. That seat was not genuinely won by the UDA party. Okay? That is not breaking news. It shouldn't be breaking news. It is common knowledge. So, what do these real census figures, this expose tell us? And by the way, this happened under the watch of former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. His government altered the figures. But what do these figures tell us? They tell us any presidential candidate who can get the block vote of the Mulembe Nation is almost certainly the one who will end up winning the presidency. Oh yes. For avoidance of doubt, you'll remember when Moi was leaving power, his calculations were based on the fact that any presidential candidate from the House of Mumbi who can be able to get the block vote of the community is almost home and dry to win the presidency. Of course, this plan was frustrated by Raila Odinga when at Uhuru Park he said those 2 famous words, Kibaki Tosha. Okay? And this Moi thinking was based on the real census figures at the time. But now you can see from the latest census figures, and using Moi's thinking, because Moi was very experienced in politics, that has shifted. And now the reality is, any presidential candidate who can get the block vote from the Mlembe Nation is almost certainly going to be the next occupant of State House. I'm telling you, hii shida ya Sifuna is bigger than most Kenyans realize. Hii ni shida kubwa. Very difficult problem to deal with. Of course, for anybody who wants to frustrate it and to frustrate the will of the vast majority of long-suffering Kenyans. But let us go back to those emergency meetings. At least 2 of them, I believe there were more, but at least these 2 we know of, that were held at State House to discuss the Sifuna problem. The first one was one of all legislators from Kakamega County. Now, obviously, that one was in preparation for the Sifuna-Kakamega mega rally. Yeah? Most probably to find ways to counter the impact of that meeting politically and otherwise. Legislators are on the ground. They know what is happening. They know which goons have which talent, etc., etc. Now, interestingly, the Kakamega governor, Bwana Barasa, has already made his stand very clear. He does not want that rally in his county. And it is super fascinating how the mwananchi on the ground is responding to those remarks by Governor Barasa. Just to give you one example, kwani Kakamega ni yako? You know, in that Luhya accent. But don't lose hope. According to my impeccable information on the ground, it will be very difficult to frustrate this mega rally, yeah, because of what is happening right now on the ground, and also because of the reputation of Kakamega people. Watu wa Kakamega wakishaamua wameamua. Wewe kaa mbali. Wakishaamua wachana nao. Okay? That is what I'm getting from the ground. In fact, excitement is building very fast. We've even heard some bodabodas coming out and volunteering that they're going to be in charge of security during the rally. Of course, this is in reference to what happened during the Kitengela rally, where some police officers threw tear gas unprovoked right in the middle of the crowd. And of course, in the ensuing chaos, something very sad happened. One Kenyan, a 28-year-old, lost their life. Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, hakuna njia tunaweza fanya siasa bila kumwaga damu. Jameni, hakuna njia. This is so sad. Anyway, you can see very clearly that the people on the ground in Kakamega are more than ready. And you can also see they're not taking any chances because people are already talking about security. And of course, it is very obvious that they are very woke. They know what is happening in Kenyan politics. They know exactly about the Sifuna wave and where it is going and where the vast majority of Kenyans want it to go. The other emergency meeting at State House was of political strategists of this regime and also some people from the intelligence community to try and figure out a way of stopping this Sifuna wave. So already that one tells you that this thing is real. Because I don't think the very, very busy government can waste time on a meeting discussing something that is of no consequence. Okay? Therefore, that should be very clear. Now, I also want to share with you some very strange information I'm getting, yeah, of the response of ODM officials, Akina Oburu Odinga, Akina Gladys Wanga. I am getting information that their strategy is to negotiate with Sifuna, yeah, to do away with removing him from the post of Secretary General. In other words, going back on their decision. Of course, we know that decision came from State House. And it was a terribly wrong decision, with the devastating consequences. Okay? Because I believe most Kenyans were just waiting for people to remove Sifuna from the position of Secretary General, for them to show their fangs properly. And we saw that very clearly in Kitengela. And so it seems that the strategy is to talk to Sifuna, keep him within ODM as a way of containing his fast rising popularity and political influence in the country. Now, personally, I don't think that will work. It is too little, too late. Mainly because even if Sifuna says, okay, let us have peace. Yes, I knew all along I was the Secretary General of ODM, and I said so. So it is okay. Let us continue going forward. Even if that happens, this will not stop the Sifuna rallies. It will not stop Sifuna's very firm stand that he will not vote for Ruto. It will not stop Sifuna's very firm position that they are not going to support a broad-based government going into the next general election, so that after 2027, we still have a broad-based government, because some people want power. We must have power, according to somebody. I'm sure most of you know who I'm talking about. Nasikia anaitwa Babu, not Babu Owino. Babu as in grandfather. Bila kizungu mingi, kimeumana kuumana. That one is very clear, because the train has already left the station and it is moving at very high speed. Destination, State House. Nothing short of that. Okay? So it will be interesting to see how those who want to try to stop Sifuna and the Sifuna wave, it will be more than interesting to see them blundering around with all their funny ideas, and of course with their goon approach. Because we know the UDA party, correct me if I'm wrong, has no other way of dealing with political opponents. They don't know any other trick except goons and violence. Please educate me. Please correct me if I've got that one wrong. Now, very quickly before I go, you will need to move with speed, because we're in the last Kipindi Chalala Salama, the last sponsor who has agreed to sponsor people, so that you get the valuable golden key at the crazy price of only Kenya shillings 999 or $8. You can see the details on your screens right now. Now, what kind of sensitive information are you going to get? Well, all the previous highly sensitive special reports. How they finished the Baba. What exactly happened to the late Cyrus Jirongo, including a timeline. At such and such a time, this happened. Then at such and such a time, something else happened, etc., etc. And then also the General Gola assassination, and a lot of other highly sensitive information, including the plan B of this regime, in case kikiumana, how this regime, the bigwigs in it, are going to successfully flee the country, where they have invested money. They have done a lot of things in preparation, just in case. And the way things are looking right now in Kenyan politics, it is no longer just in case. It looks like a clear-cut eventuality. My opinion. Okay, I don't know what yours is. Anyway, you'll be able to get all this highly sensitive information pop in your inbox the minute you get the golden key for that sponsored prize of only Kenya shillings 999. And please remember to text me your email address immediately after payment. Use the same M-Pesa telephone number to do that. Alternatively, you can drop me an email. Again, use the same PayPal email to drop me a message immediately after you've made your payment. Please move with speed to avoid disappointment. Until next time, this is Chris Karaoke Kumekucha.